Today's material breaks down the 7 levels of Range Rover ownership, tracing the brand's evolution from a $47,000 entry-level Evoque up to a $350,000 bespoke armored vehicle, analyzing the psychological motivations behind each purchase. Let's dive right into the critique.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
So, a key theme running through this material seems to be the evolution of status and capability, particularly evaluating the arrangement of these levels from affordable to high-end.
Right.
And looking at this arrangement, I have to admit, I got a bit lost going from level 2 to level 3.
Yeah, you and me both.
I mean, we start with the Evoque and the Velar, which the author beautifully frames as these, social objects driven by aesthetics. But then suddenly, I'm reading a spec sheet about inline-6 engines and mild hybrid systems in the Range Rover Sport.
Yeah, it's a huge shift.
It felt like I missed a crucial step in the progression, Does this sequence fully explain the psychological bridge between the budget tiers and the high-end luxury tiers?
The transition between the lower-tier aesthetic choices and the mid-tier performance models currently feels like a hard reset rather than a natural psychological evolution.
A hard reset, exactly.
Because, look, we have this incredibly strong premise established in the first 2 levels. The writer explicitly evaluates the arrangement of these affordable tiers through a really sharp sociological lens. The text openly admits the Evoque is basically a badge delivery mechanism, right? For someone willing to accept a compromised ride just to enter the ecosystem.
Right, it's all about access.
Exactly. Then we move to the Velar, which is framed around pure design. Negative space, materiality, prioritizing looks over segment dominance. That is fascinating writing.
It really is. It reads like a behavioral study. But the weakness emerges the second we hit the Range Rover Sport.
Yes.
Because the narrative just abandons that sociological framing entirely. We are suddenly bombarded with 575 horsepower figures, and 0 to 60 times, and dynamic air suspension details.
It becomes a brochure.
Yeah, exactly. The structural arrangement of the levels loses its connective tissue here, because it stops exploring the buyer's mind and just starts listing the car's mechanical components.
Which completely stalls the momentum of the piece. I mean, the suggestion here to fix this weakness is to frame level 3 as the specific pivot point where the social object begins to demand genuine engineering justification.
Okay, I like that.
You need to create a deliberate psychological gradient from the affordable tiers to the luxury tiers, rather than just flipping a switch from style to speed.
I want to test that theory, though. Because, isn't it possible the buyer at level 3 actually just cares about the engineering?
How so?
Well, if you're buying a 575 horsepower SUV, maybe you aren't posturing. Maybe you just want to go incredibly fast. Does the author really need to force a psychological angle onto a purely mechanical upgrade?
Well, if this were a standard automotive review, no. But the author's entire core thesis is about human ego and status.
Fair point.
If we lose that lens at level 3, the piece breaks in half. The engineering specs shouldn't replace the psychological profile. They should enhance it.
Okay, I see the distinction. So the horsepower isn't for racing, it's social armor.
Yes, social armor.
It makes me think of someone buying an extreme professional-grade diver's watch that can survive 1,000 meters underwater. And then, they only ever wear it to corporate board meetings.
That is a perfect analogy.
The mechanical capability is just a very expensive prop to communicate a specific identity.
And that is exactly how the author needs to approach the execution of this section. To give some concrete examples, instead of simply stating that level 3 adds a 6-cylinder engine, frame this level as the precise moment the buyer requires technical validity to justify their social purchase.
Ah, so contrast them with the early buyers.
Right. Contrast the level 1 Evoque buyer, who knows they are buying a starter vehicle and accepts the compromise, with the level 3 Sport buyer, who is dropping over $84,000.
Because the social stakes are higher for the Sport buyer. They are parking in a totally different lot.
They are navigating a much more competitive social arena. They're likely parking next to Porsche Cayennes or BMW X5s.
Oh, for sure.
So they need that 4.3-second acceleration, not to set lap times, but to validate their premium self-image against that Cayenne driver.
Right.
If the author rewrites level 3 to highlight that the 0 to 60 metric is merely a tool for social differentiation, the technical data suddenly connects directly back to the psychological arrangement of the 7 levels.
That tension between the engineering reality and the social posturing is really compelling. And actually, looking at how the writer handles the actual people driving these cars in the earlier tiers, I noticed another pattern.
What's that?
Building on that psychological angle, let's look closely at the section discussing the specific drivers. We have the young professional who overspends for the Evoque, and the architect obsessing over the flush door handles of the Velar.
Right, the personas?
Yeah, I can see what the author's going for here. But is there a risk that defining these levels by occupation limits the depth of the critique?
Relying heavily on specific occupational stereotypes for the early levels limits the emotional resonance and universal appeal of the psychological analysis.
Yeah, it feels a bit narrow.
The weakness in the writing is that leaning on always an architect, no exceptions for level 2, or the classic young professional stretching their paycheck for level 1, well, it feels a bit like a caricature.
I'll play devil's advocate for a second, though.
Go for it.
The architect joke is genuinely funny. I can vividly picture the guy in the minimalist black turtleneck admiring the negative space of the vehicle.
Oh, absolutely. It paints a picture.
Right. So if we strip away the specific occupations, don't we risk making the piece incredibly dry and academic?
We definitely don't want to lose the humor, but we do need to address the mismatch in analytical depth.
Meaning what exactly?
Well, by the time we reach the stealth wealth of levels 5 and 7, the CEO who drives themselves, or the desire for armored anonymity, where the goal is to look entirely unremarkable while possessing extraordinary capability, the analysis is incredibly nuanced.
All right, the later levels are super deep.
Exactly. The author is dissecting complex desires for privacy and control. The early levels, by comparison, feel cartoonish because they rely on an external W2 rather than the internal human condition.
So the high-end tiers are exploring universal human desires, while the lower tiers are just leaning on demographic cliches.
Right.
That makes the structural arrangement of the piece feel really lopsided.
It creates a fracture in the narrative tone. The suggestion to remedy this is to shift the focus of those early levels from who the buyers are, like their specific jobs, to the internal tension they are actively navigating.
Okay, I like that shift.
This matches the sophisticated angle of the high-end levels and elevates the entire progression from affordable to bespoke.
Let's unpack how a writer actually executes that on the page without losing the entertainment value. I mean, how do we rewrite the Velar buyer without using the architect crutch?
For a concrete example on level 2, instead of focusing on an architect who uses the word materiality at dinner parties, describe the buyer as a behavioral archetype.
So focus on the behavior?
Right. This is someone navigating the tension between high design and mechanical compromise. They recognize the car sits awkwardly between two segments. It's not the most practical family hauler, nor the fastest sports SUV.
But they don't care.
Exactly. They willingly accept those flaws because aesthetic purity conquers all other logic in their life. You can still describe their fastidious nature and their obsession with clean lines, but you define them by their psychological state, not their job title.
Oh, that's good. That actually gives the writer much more room to play.
It really does.
And what about level 1? Instead of just calling them a young professional who overspends, how do we show that tension?
Define the tension there as desiring the legacy of the badge while severely stretching the financial reality.
The classic fake it till you make it stress.
Yes. It's the tension of wanting to arrive, but not quite having the capital to back it up yet.
To really make that visceral, the author could show that financial stretching rather than just stating it.
Oh, definitely.
Like, show the cognitive dissonance of the buyer gripping a premium leather steering wheel while quietly sweating over the cost of an upcoming brake service.
That is perfect.
Or show them calculating lease payments in their head at a red light. That kind of internal conflict makes the persona universally applicable and creates a much stronger structural contrast against the buyers at the end of the piece.
Which is a crucial comparison. The level 1 buyer is loud because they have to be, Their tension is about securing external validation.
Right.
Compare that to the level 6 SV buyer, who obsessively curates wood grains and hand-painted finishes, but demands total quiet about it because they already possess internal certainty.
They don't need anyone else to know.
Exactly. By framing both ends of the spectrum around their internal tensions regarding validation, the entire 7-level framework feels like a cohesive psychological study rather than just a list of unrelated characters.
That tension between validation and reality is exactly what makes the final realization of the piece so brilliant.
It really is a great ending.
Yeah, the material culminates in this striking observation. The level 1 buyer spending $47,000 and the level 7 armored vehicle buyer spending $350,000 are ultimately acting on the exact same instinct.
Right, the implication of capability.
Ability, rather than actual river-wading utility. It's a fantastic thesis. But, and here's my issue, when I look back at the journey through the middle levels, I'm struggling to see how they support this conclusion.
The powerful closing argument about buying the implication of capability is currently isolated at the end rather than serving as the connective tissue for the entire arrangement of levels.
Yeah, it feels disconnected.
This is arguably the most significant structural gap in the draft.
It feels like the thesis just parachutes in during the last paragraph.
Right out of nowhere.
I mean, when the material is busy discussing the cashmere roof linings, the 35-speaker Meridian audio systems, or the 40-degree reclining massage seats in level 4, I totally lose sight of the off-road capability thread. We get so bogged down in luxury features that the overarching premise disappears.
The weakness is that the reader doesn't see how the middle tiers, levels 3, 4, 5, and 6, explicitly fit into the ultimate conclusion.
We just forget about the off-roading.
We spend thousands of words exploring the minutia of high-end comfort, and the narrative temporarily forgets why those features are wrapped in a utilitarian silhouette to begin with.
It's like we are taking a long, leisurely detour through a luxury furniture catalog, completely ignoring the fact that this furniture is bolted inside a machine designed to cross the Sahara Desert.
Which is the core absurdity of the vehicle, and the author misses the opportunity to highlight it in the middle sections.
So how do we bring that back?
The suggestion to fix this is to thread the concept of capability as theater deliberately and explicitly through every single level.
Okay.
The writer needs to make sure that final realization at level 7 feels entirely inevitable, fully justifying the psychological progression from the budget tiers to the bespoke tiers.
Let's figure out how to weave that theater of capability into those specific middle sections.
Sure.
Taking level 4, the full-size original Range Rover, the text currently mentions a couple driving from London to Scotland and arriving completely refreshed because of the ambient lighting and massage seats. How do we inject the thesis into that scene?
For a concrete example, you explicitly note that they enjoy those 40-degree reclining massage seats specifically because they are housed in a shell that looks like it could scale a mountain.
Ah, the contrast.
Right. The luxury isn't just about physical comfort. It's heightened by the contrast with the rugged exterior. They are enjoying the theater of invincibility.
Theater of invincibility. I like that.
The author needs to write a sentence explicitly connecting the softness of the interior to the hostility of the imagined exterior environment.
That makes the luxury purposeful rather than just opulent. Now, what about level 5, the long wheelbase? The text currently notes the buyer pays a massive premium to avoid being seen in a traditional chauffeur car like a Mercedes S-Class.
The way to tie this to the thesis is to emphasize that they pay a $50,000 premium over that S-Class precisely to maintain the illusion that they could drive it off-road themselves, even if they never will.
Wait, let's unpack that.
Okay.
The S-Class is undeniably more comfortable for a passenger. The ride quality is better. The ingress and egress are easier. Are you saying the level 5 buyer intentionally sacrifices physical comfort just to project an off-road illusion?
That is the ultimate proof of the thesis. The sacrifice of comfort is the point of the theater.
Wait, really? That's wild.
I mean, think about it. The S-Class communicates a very static message. I am being driven.
Yeah, very corporate.
But the long wheelbase Range Rover communicates a dynamic fantasy. I am choosing to let someone else drive my adventure vehicle today.
Oh, wow.
It's entirely about preserving the implication of capability. If the author spells out that the buyer is trading actual physical comfort for psychological theater, it completely bridges the gap to the final conclusion.
I see the logic there now. The illusion is more valuable than the ergonomics?
Exactly.
Let's push that into level 6, the SV. The text focuses heavily on the bespoke craftsmanship, the hand-swept paint, the book-matched wood veneers, the ceramic dials. How do we connect microscopic artistic perfection to a theater of capability?
By pointing out the pure absurdity of it. To connect this to the thesis, the author needs to highlight the genius of applying obsessive-compulsive artistic refinement to a vehicle that technically possesses the geometric clearances to ford 3 feet of muddy water.
It's an insane combination.
Right. The theater here is the extreme juxtaposition. The buyer is paying for the ultimate refinement applied to the ultimate rough terrain tool, knowing full well the two will never actually meet.
The mud will never touch the ceramic dials.
Exactly. The mud will never touch the ceramic dials, but the fact that it could is what makes the ceramic dials feel special.
By weaving this thread through the mid-tiers, that final paragraph won't just be a clever closing thought. It will be a profound, deeply satisfying payoff to an argument that has been building since the 47,000 Evoque.
It transforms the piece, right?
Yeah, it transforms it from a sequential list of 7 cars into a unified thesis about modern luxury and human nature.
It changes the entire impact of the reading.